You may be seated. I know you guys are now tired, but I am not going to make a speech. I just want first to thank those who have spared their time to come here and share their views about Jaramogi with us today. I want to thank our friend, Dr. Lara Otunu, who has come all the way from Uganda to be with us here. And those who joined us virtually from outside the country, we thank them. And those who have been here in the panel here, we thank them. Also those who have given keynote speeches here. Now, from what they have all said, you can say that it is like the 7 people who went to find out, those blind people who went to find out what an elephant looks like. From what they all said, actually a picture has emerged of Jaramogi, Oginga, Odinga. As a family, we thank everybody for sparing their time to come and be here today. This event would have been held 3 years ago, but because of the COVID, we decided to postpone it. And today was so important because this is the 30th anniversary of Jaramogi, why we decided that it must be held here today. Jaramogi was very many things, a very versatile character, very engaging when you want to talk to him, but very simple. It was very, very simple. We remember when we were growing up here in this town, Jaramogi just used to wear kinyasa and a color shoes. That was his standard dress in town. That's how he was known. And that is how he even went up to Legico. You will see, if you read the Note of Huru, there is a place where they were now discussing the dress, Jaramogi's dress in Bunge, how he should get into Bunge. Eventually he won that and was able to be going to Bunge without having to put up a tie. So, but growing up as children, you know, he had been a teacher. And therefore he was very, very strict with us as children. He wanted us to grow up like any other native children around. And we had it very rough, me and Oburu here, as children. But now, in retrospect, we are grateful to him that by treating us like ordinary people, we grew up as true Kenyans, and we therefore understood the problems the ordinary peasant children were experiencing in the rural areas. We were removed from schools here in Kisumu and taken back to a rural school down there. We lost 2 years of our education because of transfer from Kisumu to the rural home there. Because when we went there, they said we were too small to go to standard 3. So we had to go and start again in standard 1. But that was okay for us. We think that it was a good experience. It prepared us for life in the future. But Jaramogi, this other aspect of Jaramogi which has not been properly appreciated. Jaramogi the teacher. Jaramogi really wanted people to get education. And he spent a lot of his time and a lot of his money trying to promote education among the Kenyans. At the time he died, there were 54 children in different stages of education. Some were in nursery, primary, secondary, and university, whom he was sponsoring. we decided as a family to ensure that all those children would get education in accordance with their abilities. And through the foundation, we raised money and we ensured that all the 54 children Jaramogi was sponsoring got education. It was a time when there was nothing like CDF. So, but we managed to ensure that these children got education. Some we sent abroad to university in honor of Jaramogi. But he had started this thing much earlier. When he resigned from teaching in Maseno and came and set up a business here, he was helping very many students who wanted to go abroad. And when he now became the chairman of the Care of Luo Union, he now actually institutionalized it. Very many students who went abroad in those days got support from Luo Union. And when he went on a trip, he had been invited to go to India. What happened is, Mogi had constructed a building in the center of the town here. He called it Ramogi House. And that building was completed in 1951. So in 1952, he invited the governor. He wrote a letter to the governor through the PC to come and officially launch or open the building. The reply came back that the town center is not for natives. That Africans should go and build in the native reserves. The town center is only for Europeans and Asians. So that is noted rule, you can read it there. So after that rejection, he now wrote to the Indian High Commission. By that time, India had attained independence and had posted a High Commissioner here in Nairobi who was representing the whole of Eastern Africa. It was called Sir Apa Sahib Pant. So Apa Sahib Pant accepted the invitation to come. So he came here to Kisumu to open the building. And when he looked at the building, he was so impressed that he said that people who are still struggling under colonial oppression can put up a building like this. He invited Jaramogi to go to India to see how Indians are working to reconstruct their country after independence. And that is how Jaramogi traveled to India. And in India, he spent 2 months in India. He traveled the length and the breadth of India, met so many people, the Minister of Education, the Minister for Culture, the Minister for Industries. He toured from Bombay to Delhi, to Bangalore, to Chennai, to Calcutta, to Srinagar, all part of India. Some by train, by road, by air. And when he came back, he wrote a book in Luo. It was called Dueche Areo e India. 2 months in India. He recorded everything that he had seen in India. That book was later on translated by an Indian friend of him, Ambubai Patel, into English. And the copies are available there. You can buy them. 2 months in India are available there. Noted Huru is also available there. Flames of Freedom is also available there. Anybody who wants can buy. In that book, he was so impressed. He met with the then Indian Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, and they had long discussions. And he signed an agreement there with the Indian government that he could send Kenyan students to go and study in India. So long as they get transport to go to India, they would get Indian government scholarship to study for free in Indian universities. So Jaramogi then came here and recruited Kenyans to go and study in India. He opened an office in that building called Jivan Barak building, where the Indian High Commission was, and put a Kenyan who had come from India at that time called Olwandi Kodul as the secretary. To that scholarship program, many Kenyans went to study in India from 1953, 4, 5, 6, all that. People like from here, I can give you some names. Odinga Mama, Omolo Kero, Tomokelo Dongo, Odero Jogi, Akoko Mboya, Mauro Keo, and up there, Joe Karanja, who became the first High Commissioner in London, Vice Chancellor of University of Nairobi, and Vice President. Henry Waridi, the first Member of Parliament for Mukurweini. Kalembe Ndile was an MP for somewhere in Okambani. Omoto Omoto Masahalia was Masahalia. We used to live together with him. Here he was working at Lutheran near here company. S.M. Otieno. All those were students who Jaramogi sent to study in India. This is long before airlift. So the Indian package was much earlier than the airlift. And the airlift only had about 300 people. But then after that, when Jaramogi traveled to the Eastern European countries, first Jaramogi had gone on to attend a conference in Tokyo, Japan, a World Peace Conference. When he was at that conference in Tokyo, he met with the Chinese delegation. The Chinese delegation invited him to go and visit China, and he accepted. That is how Jaramogi went to the East. When he went to China, they went first to Shanghai. From Shanghai, they went to Peking, those days, now Beijing. And he met with Mao Zedong and Xu Enlai. And they had discussions, and they arranged for him to go to other parts of China to go and see how China were working to develop their country, Chinese. He went to several provinces of China. From there, they arranged for him to go to Moscow. By that time, the Chinese and the Russians had not disagreed. So they're the ones who made arrangement for him to go and meet with Nikita Khrushchev, then the president of the Soviet Union in Moscow. So he went from Peking to Moscow and had discussions with the leadership of Soviet Union. First, in Beijing, they agreed to support the liberation movement in Kenya. In Moscow, also, they agreed to support the liberation movement in Kenya. From Moscow, he flew to London. At Heathrow Airport, the immigration saw the stamp of Peking. They did not mind about Moscow, but Peking, the Red China. So he went to China, yes. He was holding a British passport. At that time, everybody was a British subject. And the British citizens were not supposed to go to Red China. So the guy just did not say anything, but noted, and I think reported to with immigration. He went into the town. But from there, when he came back to Nairobi and landed at Jomo Kenyatta Airport now, then Embakasi Airport, the passport was impounded. They took away the passport. They did not give any reasons. So there was a headline, Jaramogi's passport impounded. So the matter was raised in the Legico, and there was a long debate over it. The majority of members of parliament at that time were white, and they were saying how Jaramogi was playing about with fire. One was called Group Captain Briggs, one was Sir Michael Blandel, and one was called N.S. Basi. And all of them were condemning Jaramogi and saying that Jaramogi was playing with what he did not understand. He who rode on the back of the tiger ended inside the stomach of the tiger. So one said, Mr. Odinga should know that men much more intelligent than him have tried and have failed, and he will fail. So when Jaramogi rose to respond, he told the gentlemen who were talking that, look, even me, before I went to China, I was as ignorant as you people about China. But what I saw in China was an eye-opener to me. China is the country with the biggest population in the world. At that time, 540 million people. But in China, I did not see any people walking naked. Everyone was clothed. In China, I did not see people who are unemployed. Everybody was employed. In China, I did not see people hungry. Everybody was eating. China was able to feed 540 million people. We have no beggars in China. So if that is what's communism, then communism is food. It's like food. That's what Jaramogi said. You can see it in the Hansard. Tomorrow, headline East African Standards. Communism, my food, says Odinga. How Jaramogi had the tag of being a communist. Jaramogi never studied Marxism-Leninism at all. He did not. But Jaramogi was just being realistic at that time. Now what he did, he negotiated scholarships with those countries for Kenyans. At that time, it was not easy to get a passport if you're going to study in those countries. So the Kenyans who had moved out and had been denied opportunity to go and study in Rome, and they had gone by foot through Uganda and through South Sudan to Khartoum, negotiated and opened an office in Khartoum, and then went also up to Cairo and opened an office. Jaramogi met them, and through that connection, he opened an office in Cairo, and he was able to meet the Egyptian president, Mr. Nasser. But I wanted to tell you that when his passport was impounded here, he got a passport, international passport from Kwame Nkrumah, president of Ghana. Another one from Gamal Abdel Nasser, president of Egypt. So he had 2 international passports. So he went there, and in Cairo they set up an office operated by the late William Odhiambo Kelo, Werambitho, and Abdallah Karungo. And then they opened up another office in London, operated by Otiego Thiel. In London, Nkrumah bought a building called Africa Unity House, which building he dedicated to the liberation struggle on Africa. And all Africans who had a problem in London could go and stay in that building. And he asked Jaramogi to give him somebody to manage that building. Jaramogi gave him a Kenyan who had been a student in London and had not come back, called Othigo Thieno, became the manager of Africa Unity House. So now the Cairo office was the one that was liaising with all these countries: Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Romania, the Soviet Union, Yugoslavia, and China and so on, about scholarships. So Kenyans really needed to get to Cairo. From Cairo, you now be able to travel to get a scholarship to study for free in all those countries. Through that program, 5,000 Kenyans managed to study in the university. That was Jaramogi's initiative, which has never been recognized or appreciated, because people highlight only the 300 or so people who were taken by airlift and from Embakasi to New York. But there's nothing, it's a drop in the water of the ocean by comparison to many Kenyans who studied through Jaramogi's initiative. First in India, then in those other countries, then in the UK. To other West African countries, Ghana, Egypt, and so on and so forth. This is an aspect of Jaramogi's contribution that has never been appreciated. And I wanted this to also go on record. Jaramogi as an educator. So therefore, I really want to thank you all for coming to help us remember Jaramogi. Asanteni sana. Mungu wabariki.
They are called a walking encyclopedia.